Hey there guys, so we're taking a look at Grid 2 running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. Now I currently have a bunch of different videos in production right now. I pretty much ended up slowing down dramatically, but now that I have my setup complete, I'm ready to go back to just making a lot more content. We're taking a look at this game right now. Currently you're looking at it running at 1080p with the lowest in-game graphics setting, which is the very low preset. And currently what we're getting in terms of performance is actually really solid considering we're running at the stock 15-watt TDP. Now obviously we're using the built-in benchmark in the game, and it's fantastic because it just does pretty much a race, and you can see how it performs here, and you can see that the 1% lows that we're getting are pretty incredible, and so are the averages that we're getting. Visually speaking, I really don't think that the game looks too bad, honestly. For the preset being very low, it's still more than doable. Obviously the detail and things like the roads and the buildings around isn't the greatest, but if you just care about the pure gameplay aspect of it, this is going to give you some pretty god tier levels of performance, and I think a lot of people would be very happy to play like this. But of course the display on this laptop is only 60 hertz anyway, so all of this extra FPS really isn't amounting to anything. Of course, if we hook this up to an external 144 hertz monitor, then we can actually get a nice bump out of that. But if you're just going to be using the internal display, then you might benefit from just turning up some graphics settings and getting a better visual experience, because this excess performance isn't really going to help you much at all. Of course, bumping up to the low preset, going up from the very low, you can see here that we do take a hit in terms of performance. The visuals are slightly improved, but overall we're still well above a 60 FPS average with 1% lows in the 70s, which means that we're going to have a very rock solid gaming experience here. The game is going to be completely doable. Really, we do have the headroom here to actually be able to turn up the settings even more, because again, 60 hertz display anyway, so if we can get more visuals and still keep our performance above that 60 FPS range, then we're going to have a very solid gaming experience. But in general, I am very impressed with how this is performing at just the stock 15-watt TDP. It's really a great experience. And visually speaking, you do see a bit of visual quality increase in terms of the detail on the ground and things like that. So there is a nice bump in terms of visuals, while also the performance decrease not really being noticeable at all because of the fact that we're still well within the refresh rate of the display. And bumping things up to the medium preset, you can see that our 1% lows are starting to now be around the 60 FPS mark, going just slightly under that. It's not really going to be anything noticeable, especially because our averages are going to be very solid. So overall, the gaming experience here is pretty much the most ideal, and I think that if you're going to be playing with the internal display, this is the setting to go at if you're going to be at the stock 15-watt TDP. We do also have the option of course, raising the TDP to try to squeeze some more performance, but we'll see what the high and ultra preset end up doing to the performance and see if raising the TDP is actually going to amount to anything. But overall, the performance that we're getting at the medium preset is very good, and I think most people are going to be very satisfied with playing like this. And this is pretty much the most ideal setting for having the best visuals to performance balance. Of course, going to the high preset, you can see here that now we are going under 60 FPS with 1% lows dropping down into the mid 40s. Though our averages are still close enough to 60 that it will be mostly indistinguishable from a 60 FPS average, those drops down to the mid 40s are going to be a little noticeable. But if you look at the frame time charts in general, they still stay very consistent. So if you really do want to get into these higher presets, you do actually have the capability of doing it and actually getting a good gaming experience here. It's just that we are now dropping below the refresh rate of the display itself. You will see in the video itself screen tearing that is not present in the gaming experience on the actual laptop, because the laptop itself actually has a FreeSync display. So this is well within the FreeSync range, and we're not going to have any screen tearing whatsoever. And of course, the ultra setting now is starting to bring the 1% lows down into the 30s, with averages also being in the 30 range, sometimes going up into the 40s. So in general, the gaming experience here, while doable, because if you look again, the frame time's very consistent, the FPS drop is at this point very noticeable compared to where we were at before. Everything felt so much smoother before. Things are at at least consistent, but you can definitely tell it looks a lot more choppy because of the fact that it's just less frames happening per second. So in general, it is a playable experience, but I really would not recommend playing like this unless you really just want that flex of saying you're playing this game from like almost 10 years ago at ultra settings. Now we drop down to the very low preset again, and we raise the TDP up to 25 watts. We can see the level of performance that we're getting here, and we're still in the hundreds of FPS range with 1% lows that are in the 80s. This is a fantastic gaming experience, absolutely rock solid. You really don't even need to raise the TDP in this case. We were already getting fantastic performance at this preset with just the stock TDP, so this raise really is not really doing anything. You're going to hit some higher FPS numbers, but unless you're going to be using a high refresh rate monitor, it really doesn't mean anything. Of course, the same can be said with the low preset. We're still getting numbers that are almost identical to where we were at with the very low preset, with just a small drop in the actual overall average. Our 1% lows are pretty much within the same range, and the gaming experience feels identical because of the fact that we're well within the FPS range of the actual display on this laptop. So really another situation where it's just overkill to go with the 25 watt TDP. It was already doing perfectly fine with just the stock TDP. Of course, switching over to the medium preset, we can see here that we are staying well above 60 here. Our averages are within the 70s, and our 1% lows are pretty much at 60. So this is a solid gaming experience. It was already very good at the stock setting though, so no major gains happening here with the 25 watt TDP. In general, I would just play this game with the stock TDP and go with the medium preset. No need to really increase the performance because it's not necessary. You're still going to be well within the range of the display itself. You will pretty much never drop below 60, so it'll be just an absolutely rock solid gaming experience. Now, the benefits of raising the TDP really come into play when you start to go for the high preset, because our 1% lows stay very close to our averages, and the overall gaming experience is better because our 1% lows are in a much better range than going down into the 40s. So if you really want to play this at the high preset, or you're on a system that can do the 25 watt TDP without any issues whatsoever, then this is the most ideal situation. This is pretty much going to give you a pretty much perfect experience with the high preset. Though visually speaking, I really don't think that it looks that much better than any of the other presets. Specifically going past the medium one, I don't really see any major gains, specifically when you're driving really fast and stuff like that. It's just one of those things where I don't really care about any like visual gains. And going with the ultra preset at the 25 watt TDP, you can see here that overall it's not enough to really make this preset worthwhile. If you're going to be using the 25 watt TDP, go right for high and just enjoy that. Don't even bother with ultra. Ultra is still way too demanding, and I mean, it's playable, but it's a level of performance that is just going to be noticeably worse than just going down to high. And ultra, I really don't see any visual difference that would make taking this performance hit, specifically in the 1% lows. I just don't really see a reason to do this. Like, if you're just one of those people that just needs every game to run on ultra, at least you can play it, but I really think that you should just go with the high preset if you're going to do the 25 watt TDP. And if you're going to be playing at stock, just go with medium. And if you have a high refresh rate monitor, then go with the lower or ultra low setting and pretty much enjoy having all of the FPS you could ever want. But anyways, I hope you guys found this video useful. We're not going to be testing out the 30 watt TDP because we're really already at a range where the gaming experience is solid enough with 25 watts that going up to 30 watts is not really going to be that necessary for the testing. Of course, if you're on a system that can handle 30 watts, then go for that, and you're going to get probably even better performance than this already. Though I would wager that it's probably not a substantial increase whatsoever. But anyways, I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, be sure to subscribe, and there are going to be more consistent videos coming out from now on, now that everything's situated here. So I appreciate you guys subscribing and watching. I will see you guys in the next one.